Welcome to the Growlers and Gremlins podcast, an alcoholic adventure in cryptids, paranormal, and the occult. Coming to you weekly from the heartland of America.
Welcome to Growlers and Gremlins. I am John, the pretty one, and with me I have... not looking at his mic at all, playing with the cord.
I moved it aside because you were fucking talking, and you were like, oh, Brian, you gotta be quiet all the time.
All right, you know who it is. Who's across from me?
Jason, the analyst, an actual favorite host.
I didn't say I was the favorite host.
Yeah, I gotta reinforce that.
I said the pretty one.
Yeah, you're
not going to debate that. And our guest this week.
My name is Josh.
Josh. All right.
Josh.
Our beer of the week this week. We are back to Taxman Brewing once again by popular demand, and because Brian was very upset that he missed out the last time we did this brewery.
I have Silver Can.
You do have Silver Can. Beer of the week this week is the Peach Mango Spinoff Kettle Sour Saison Ale with fruit. If you couldn't gather that from Peach Mango.
All right, let's get in.
It's going to be
It already smells like sour, and I'm not happy at all.
Oh, it tastes like a sour.
Nice.
This one isn't as bad as the last sour we had.
No, they're pretty much the same.
I think it's really good because it tastes exactly like every other sour. Hell, no, this is definitely less sour than the ones from BrewLink.
Yeah, I don't have the violent reaction I had to the previous sours.
Oh, yeah, it's not bad at all.
It's a really nice, like the mango really comes through. I don't taste the peach so much.
I taste sour. But that's probably because I just chugged half of it.
There was something I had recently that made me think of you, Brian. It was...
a heart attack?
No, it had to have been a beer. Otherwise, I don't know why it would have stood out. But it tasted exactly like peach rings. What was that? I feel like I already told you about it.
I have no idea.
Man. Oh, you know what? No, it's an energy drink. It's
Four Loko?
No, I think it's the peach rain that tastes like peach rings. That or it's one of the Bang flavors.
No idea. I don't drink that.
I think it was rain. They have a peach flavor that tastes just like peach rings.
I do 6 energy drinks a day. I don't really... whatever I can get for 2 for...
That's because you always get Monster.
Well, yeah, that's because they're like buy 2 get 1 free or buy 3 for $5.50.
Yeah, I know.
They got the best deals.
They do. I mean, Bangs are only $1.99, which is lower than most. But then again, Bang is a weird company. Do you know about that? Like the Bang controversy?
Do they have blood diamond?
I just know like
liners?
everybody I watch on like YouTube or TikTok or anything is like
gamer subs.
They have like the Bang sponsorship. Like,
yeah, that's a really weird deal that they do. But somebody did a whole video on that. But also that there was some ad they put out where like they were advertising an energy drink called Bang and decided to advertise it by having like a bunch of 12 and 13-year-old girls dancing around. It's like no, that's not good.
Okay.
I don't think they had it in their heads the right way.
Speaking of which, this episode brought to you by Raid. No, never mind.
Raid Shadow Legends.
Yes.
The only people good at making
I would kill
Flash Kids.
I would kill for a Raid Shadow Legends sponsorship or a War Robots.
$10,000
World of Tanks.
World of Tanks.
World of Tanks doesn't do ad. You just make the video for them.
So now it used to be like a pre-roll, but now they do like, hey, go out to this like tank and like shoot it for a while, and we'll call it a sponsorship video.
Yeah.
All right. So this week, Jason, you're going to be happy. I know you're into this. You like this. And Brian, you're probably not going to enjoy this too much.
Is it time travel?
No, but it is complex.
That doesn't mean anything. I like complex topics.
So basically what we're going to talk about is simulation theory, but more specifically the original simulation theory, the ancestor simulation theory, which
okay.
I always thought about simulation theory as in like the Matrix, you know, just stupid kind of thing like that, where there's just like a hive where they're like using people for energy and like putting us in this simulation.
Or a form of control, or
Yeah, but ancestor simulation theory, which is actually the original simulation theory, is actually really interesting to me. And
I know I've explained this to you before, so
I don't know. I don't know if we've ever actually talked about this specific breed of it, but it comes from a paper written in 2003 that was published in Philosophical Quarterly, written by Nick Bostrom. The article was called, "Are You Living in a Computer Simulation?" In the intro, he says, "This paper argues that at least one of the following propositions is true. 1. The human species is very likely to go extinct before reaching a post-human stage. 2. Any post-human civilization is extremely unlikely to run a significant number of simulations of their evolutionary history or variations thereof. 3. We are almost certainly living in a computer simulation. It follows that the belief that there is a significant chance that we will one day become post-humans who run ancestor simulations is false unless we are currently living in a simulation. A number of other consequences of this result are also discussed." So, he goes on to say, "Many works of science fiction, as well as some forecasts by serious technologists and futurologists, predict that enormous amounts of computing power will be available in the future. Let us suppose for a moment that these predictions are correct. One thing that later generations might do with their super powerful computers is run detailed simulations of their forebears, or of people like their forebears. Because their computers would be so powerful, they could run a great many simulations. Suppose that these simulated people are conscious, as they would be if the simulations were sufficiently fine-grained, and if a certain quite widely accepted position in the philosophy of mind is correct. Then it would be the case that the vast majority of minds like ours do not belong to the original race, but rather to people simulated by the advanced descendants of an original race. It is then possible to argue that, if this were the case, we would be rational to think that we are likely among the simulated minds, rather than among the original biological ones. Therefore, if we don't think that we are currently living in a computer simulation, we are not entitled to believe that we will have descendants who will run lots of such simulations of their forebears. That is the basic idea."
all right, I already disagree, because the idea being,
How do you disagree with the originator of the hypothesis
because
about his own hypothesis?
Because, like, think about it. We might be the first loop through this process.
That's the thing.
We might be the ones that become post-human.
We
and
might
run
be
the first one. And it's just as likely that we are 3 or 4 simulations deep.
It's actually, well, he argues that it's actually less likely that we're the original, because there would be multiple simulations running, so the odds of us being the original get lower and lower the more simulations exist. So, hard to tell. So, then Caleb A. Scharf wrote an article. Caleb A. Scharf is the, let's see here, I've got his credentials here somewhere. Caleb A. Scharf is the director of astrobiology at Columbia University. And he wrote a paper called, "Could We Force the Universe to Crash? If we're all living in a simulation, as some have suggested, it would be a good, albeit risky way to find out for sure."
I'll tell you right now how the simulation crashes. Brian finally gets laid.
Ooh, that was spicy.
We have some time then.
We just said that.
Jesus fuck.
We have some time. We just need to keep Brian immortal.
Well, if he passes
Simulation
away
also
laid.
no, this is true. Simulation also crashes if Brian dies.
Oh boy. I might go home and shoot myself.
Okay, so
Bring it down to simulation.
He says, intriguingly, the simulation hypothesis might be testable under certain assumptions. For example, we might suppose that a simulation has its limitations. The most obvious one, extrapolating from the current state of digital computation, is simply that a simulation will have to make approximations to save on information storage and calculation overheads. In other words, it would have limits on accuracy and precision. One way that those limits could manifest themselves is in the discretization of the world. I don't know what that word means, like from context, sort of, but I think
what they're talking about is the idea that, like, you look at the wall, you know there's things inside the wall, but the simulation doesn't render it unless you open up the wall.
Yep.
Like the wires and studs and stuff all exist.
I am mid-sentence.
You said you were stuck on what the fuck it meant, so I was helping you.
It's just glossing over the fact that that word is weird. Because I don't know that I'm pronouncing it right. Discretization. That's kind of what
The process of discrediting?
No. Because it's not like from discredit, it's discretion, like discrete, but
that might be it.
Yeah, anyway, perhaps showing up in spatial and temporal resolution barriers. Although we do think that there are some absolute limits in what constitutes meaningful small distances or time intervals, like the Planck scale and Planck time, that has to do with the limits of our current understanding of physics rather than the kind of resolution limits on your pixelated screen. Nonetheless, research suggests that the true limit of meaningful intervals of time might be orders of magnitude larger than the traditional Planck time, which itself is 10 to the negative 43rd power seconds. Perhaps future physics experiments could reveal an unexpected chunkiness to time and space. But sorry, this is funny to me. Basically, like the idea that as you get further out, the whole universe just starts to get chunky because it's not quite loaded in.
All right. Fucking WandaVision, right? The edge of town where people are like glitching and barely moving.
Yeah, like that. But the neatest test of the hypothesis would be to crash the system that runs our simulation. Naturally, that sounds a bit ill-advised, but if we're all virtual entities anyway, does it really matter? Presumably, that's so dark. Presumably, a quick reboot and restore might bring us back online as if nothing had happened. But possibly, we'd be able to tell, or at very least, have a few microseconds of triumph just before it all shuts down. The question is, how do you bring down a simulation of reality from inside it? The most obvious strategy would be to try to cause the equivalent of stack overflow, asking for more space in the active memory of a program than is available by creating an infinitely or at least excessively recursive process. And the way to do that would be to build our own simulated realities, designed so that within those virtual worlds are entities creating their version of a simulated reality, which is in turn doing the same, and so on all the way down the rabbit hole. If all of this worked, the universe as we know it might crash, revealing itself as a mirage just as we winked out of existence.
This makes me think of Dwight's Second Life.
Second Life, yes. Where he started up like a little Second Life office within Second Life for people.
Because it just wasn't far enough removed for him.
Exactly. I almost wonder if Rainn Wilson didn't come up with that concept himself for the show.
I wouldn't put it past him.
Because, like, he's that kind of guy, you know? Anyway, you could argue that any species capable of simulating a reality likely similar to its own would surely anticipate this eventuality and build in some safeguards to prevent it happening. For instance, we might discover that it is strangely and inexplicably impossible to actually make simulated universes of our own, no matter how powerful our computational systems are, whether generalized quantum computers or otherwise. That in itself could be a sign that we already exist inside a simulation. Of course, the original programmers might have anticipated that scenario too and found some way to trick us, perhaps just streaming us information from other simulation runs rather than letting us run our own. Which is really cool, like that idea that if we are in a simulation and we try to create a simulation of our own world to crash the simulation we're in, they'll just feed us a stream of another simulation they're running rather than let us think, just let us think that we've created this, but we didn't.
Mm-hmm. Well, a computer on a scale of like a Jupiter brain, like I don't know, I think I brought this up during the Roku's Basilisk episode.
Roku,
whatever. Fuck you.
Roku.
But the idea that a computer of sufficient power could simulate our entire existence in a snap. So they could have ran multiple simulations and have spare ones to rerun to us.
So he says that interventions like this, like stopping us from, exposing them, would risk undermining the reason for a species running such simulations in the first place, which would be to learn something deep about their own nature. Perhaps letting it all crash is simply the price to pay for the integrity of the results. Or perhaps they're running the simulation containing us to find out whether they themselves are within a fake reality. So we could be the simulation
of a
within a
simulation. We're the simulation of a simulation.
We don't know how deep we are.
And we're creating we're just rabbit holing the simulation board.
Yeah, and the coolest thing about that to me is that someone else had wrote an article and I couldn't find it again. And I wanted to, but the idea was we are living in a simulation and we cannot escape it. Where a lot of people think about simulation theory, like I did, as like the Matrix type thing, where they could get out of it. Well, we can't get out of it if we're a simulated version of a past us that used to be biological, used to be living, and now we're not. There's nothing to escape. We just are this simulated being.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's weird to me to think about when you talk about like reincarnation and even the multiverse, the idea that they could be running multiple simulations. So there'd be multiple other universes out there with like slightly different versions of us, but also that we are a repeat of a life we've lived before through other simulations and also our original biological life. And that's just like, whoa.
Well, that just sounds like the other weird theory that I read about years ago, which is in your dying moments, when they say your life flashes before your eyes, your brain is trying to remember your life as best it can. So you're not flashing, you're reliving your life. And every time you get back to the last moment of your life, your memory relapses to try to live that life again and again. And the more you it just deteriorates the deeper you get.
So we're just like stacking death flashbacks?
Yeah, it's stacking the death flashback. There's still just one body.
I like that.
But it's your brain going back and trying to remember, but the more it tries to go...
the memory has its own death flashback.
Yeah. And that's like where people...
But the way memory works, eventually it would just get extremely vague and clunky.
Yeah, but like your first loop, your brain's gonna be like, we can remember this a little bit. Then the second one, you're like, some things are getting mixed up. Third one, some things are getting really bad. Fourth one, okay, now we're mixing in everything.
And in the fifth one, you can fly.
Yeah, I mean that's what part of the story was it's like you get to that 6th, 7th, and suddenly then like by your 9th one, it's all black because you just can't remember anything anymore. The file has been so corrupted. That's when you finally die.
Yeah.
When your memory can no longer pull anything to show you as your dying moment, then you just finally lights out.
That could be fun.
Like this could be...
And that's why you'd do the Steve Jobs and go, oh, wow. Wow.
Owen Wilson?
No, Steve Jobs' last words, supposedly. I just say I'm like Owen Wilson because you can't say wow normally anymore.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Well, this could also apply to the nested simulations.
Swears.
Loss of information each time to where each simulation is slightly different as it heads down.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I don't know, it's fun to think about that, like, maybe we already did live our lives and we're just a simulated repeat. There's just no way of knowing. I mean, it almost seems like narcissism to say like, no, we are the biological, we are the original, we will become the people that make the simulations. Well, maybe we did, but now we're not them anymore. I mean, I guess it's the same thing regardless, because if we are in a simulation, then that did happen. If we're not, it's going to.
Right.
It just depends on where you are in your timeline. Like, he argues in his paper that like, if you don't think we're living in a simulation, then you don't think we'll ever have like a post-human society that could run simulations.
Well, we talked about the simulation.
But, I mean, if
filters.
we are, well, and that could be the simulation though. Mm-hmm. That civilization filter could be like the thing that we can't do because we're in a simulation. You know, the limit on us figuring out we're in a simulation, or the idea. You know, he says if you don't believe we're living in a simulation, then you likely also believe we'll never be able to run them. Maybe that is the civilization filter. It's like something happens that destroys everything.
Are you saying we could be living the live-action version of a Stellaris game?
I've never played a Stellaris game.
It's a 4X game.
That didn't tell me anything.
Okay.
Once again, Brian
I'm
proves
just
he
saying.
is not rooted in reality.
Oh, yes, because this whole conversation is rooted in fucking reality.
Simulated reality?
Shut up, John.
I gotta go.
No, we're living out a real-time strategy game.
I gotta go powder my nose. You know what I mean? I'll be right back, guys. You keep it going.
We'll keep it going. Anybody know what a 4X game is?
I have no idea. Never heard of it.
I don't remember what the X... It's something like explore, exterminate, examine, extricate. I don't fucking remember. But it's the big, like, overall, like, you're building and attacking, like, universes. And I mean, Stellaris is the one I know best. But, I mean, in real time, those games, like, in game time, that's thousands of years. You're colonizing. It's like, we could be... Are you saying that we're living... I thought you said you were going to powder your nose.
Why did that mean bathroom to you?
Because that's what it means.
No,
The powder
powder your
room?
nose means do cocaine.
God, shut the fuck up. Just shut the hell up.
That is what that means. But no, I had to blow my nose. My nose is a little runny. So
Okay.
I went and done blued it.
Well, when I was thinking about a simulation, if I was the creator of one, do you think that the creators of this simulation would have Easter eggs letting you know that you're possibly in a simulation?
Like the glitch in the Matrix subreddit,
Right.
like
Well,
those things that, like, maybe that, you know.
I was reading something that chewing gum isn't like could be an example.
Oh, no. I was going to bring this up.
Oh.
No, keep going. I
literally-
hope you're going where I think you're going.
I just read it the other day. I don't even know where it was, but I just read something that like gum, it could be a part of the actual reality, and as a simulation, that's why you keep chewing on it and chewing on it and chewing on it because it's actually real and you can't get rid of it.
I saw this old guy say, it was on like TikTok. This
I think
old
I saw
guy-
the same video.
He was talking about gum, and he's like, you gotta chew the gum. The gum is real, but you have to swallow your gum because the gum that you swallow stays in your stomach for 7 years. Well, every 7 years, every cell in your body regenerates, so you're technically a new year. But really what it is that every 7 years they pull you out of the simulation and replace you. And if you chew the gum, they can't get you out.
Okay, that went a lot further than I was thinking.
What the
but-
fuck?
No, it's if you swallow the gum, they can't pull you out.
Yeah, they can't pull you out if you swallow your gum.
Gotcha, okay.
But that's not even true. Like, gum does not stay in your stomach for
Right.
7 years. You just get it out like any other food. It does not stay in there.
Yes.
That's something they tell little kids so that they won't swallow gum and risk choking on it.
Yes,
Right.
because children are
And
stupid.
he's just playing on the coincidence of supposedly 7 years of gum.
Mm-hmm.
Supposedly every 7 years you regenerate a whole new you.
Well, it's
And
not
that-
like
that's
all your
actually
cells
true.
time
Right.
out at
But
7
the
years.
correlation of that number 7, he's like, oh, this means something. This number 7 keeps popping up.
Mm-hmm. But like, Brian, they do, but it's not like, it's kind of like cicadas, where like you have cicadas almost every year,
Yeah,
even though
they're
they
not
technically
on a fixed
hibernate.
schedule.
Yeah, because there's different like groups of them that are on different schedules.
Yeah,
So it's not like your whole
bones
body
are not
just dies
regenerating.
every 7 years. No, it's just like the
Like-
cells have like a 7-year life where they've been completely.
Like you just turn to ash
Regenerated.
in your bed and then just phoenix right back out of it.
That would be great.
Oh fuck! What the hell? Oh, I regenerated. Okay, that'd be a lot more interesting. But you'd have to like sleep in a plastic mat
What if that was just something people did? Like every morning they just like shedded skin.
like a snake, or just like they got up and had to like shake around and just like snow down off of them.
Or like once a month you had to make yourself a cocoon out of your own poop and like go through like a rejuvenation period.
No,
And people are like, "Oh, we can't go over to their house. They're you know,
they're in the poo cocoon.
they're in their chrysalis right now." It's
But
just
even
part of
cocoons
life.
aren't poop. They're like
I know,
chewed
but how would
material.
ours be?
You just chew and spit
would-
material until you make a
That would
cocoon.
take forever, though. As a person,
Can I just get in a
so
sleeping
would covering
bag?
yourself in shit.
No,
I'm just gonna get in a sleeping bag and just like nestle up if I had to.
Brian will come out with his wings. Wrap yourself up in a sleeping bag, stuff a body pillow down in
No,
there.
fuck off!
You'll come out a new man.
God, fuck
That
you.
body pillow will be very crusty.
So,
No, I'm cocooned up. I'm sleeping.
simulation theory, I think, you know, it's a lot of fun. It's really interesting. I don't think we're living in a simulation, but a lot of the arguments that go back and forth on it are just incredibly interesting. And I printed out this article because I could not help laughing when I was reading it, and I hope you guys get it and enjoy it, because this was a serious article. And their arguments were so bad and showed such a lack of understanding of the concept that it was just hilarious to me, because I think that these people just don't like Elon Musk, and that's why they did this. So this is from Vice.
Oh,
so,
jeez.
This is an article by Ricardo Manzotti and Andrew Smart. So you know it's right.
Yeah.
Smart. They titled the article, "Elon Musk is wrong. We aren't living in a simulation." No beating around the bush. A simulated apple can't feed anybody, and other reality checks by a philosopher and a cognitive scientist, whatever that is.
I would assume it's somebody that studies how the brain functions.
I checked on these guys' credentials. One of them is a psychologist, and the other is labeled as just a cognitive scientist, whatever that is.
I guess that would be a neuroscientist.
Or no. One was a psychologist. No, I don't remember. But either way, I cut out a little bit of this that I just thought was funny. So one of the things they start with is a quote from Elon Musk. He said, "There's a 1 in a billions chance we're in base reality. I think it's 1 in billions. We should hope that's true, because otherwise, if civilization stops advancing, that could be due to some calamitous event that erases civilization. So maybe we should be hopeful this is a simulation. Otherwise, we will create simulations that are indistinguishable from reality, or civilization will cease to exist. There are the two options." So basically, he says either eventually we'll advance, we'll do this, and simulations, and we may be in one, or we never create them because civilization just falls apart.
Right. The civilization filter, right?
We're creating give up civilizations.
So they say, and this is where it starts, where you're like, all right, they're coming from a whole point of misunderstanding. They don't know what simulation theory is. They say, "It is probably not Musk's most original idea. The notion that we live in a simulation, sometimes called the simulated universe hypothesis, was popularized in the 90s by the Wachowskis in The Matrix. But the idea has been around for years."
Is The Matrix from the 90s?
Yeah.
Yeah.
99?
Unfortunately.
In an episode of Doctor Who from 1976 called The Deadly Assassin, a community of individuals live a simulated life and called a machine called, guess what? The Matrix. In fact, Musk is elaborating a technologically updated version of one of the oldest philosophical puzzles. Namely, is the world we live in nothing but a dream? Basically, it is the Kantian idea that the experience is a phenomenon while the real world, the thing itself, is hidden to us. Or, if one wants to go back to the Greeks, who doesn't, it is the allegory of a cave. I don't know why they threw that in there.
To go back
who
to the
doesn't?
Greeks?
Like, I don't know why they said that.
Who doesn't like shitting in the street?
Anyway, what we believe is the real world is nothing but the distorted shadows cast on the cave's wall by simulacra, statues and silhouettes of actual objects.
So do you actually know the story of the cave?
What?
The cave is an actual thing. Like, do you know the story of that?
No, I didn't look into it.
The whole idea is, if you were to take people and chain them inside a cave,
been there, done that.
Yeah, and have a light source behind them to where all they ever see is their own shadow and the shadow of the other people chained up with them. They would think that their reality is the shadow. And the idea that if a person were to escape that situation, actually see the world as a three-dimensional thing, would they be able to understand it, or would they be so frightened they want to go back to the comfort of their shadow?
Yeah.
That's the story of the cave. And why they're bringing this in with simulation theory, I'm not sure.
I would think that probably 80% of people would go back to the shadow, just given the world.
Only if that's all you ever knew, and that's what you think reality is this black and white shadow in front of you.
Exactly. So here's where they really go off, and they just seem to not really get it.
Mm-hmm.
The section of the article is called "Simulations Are Things in the World." The key question is, what are simulations made of? Or if you are more poetically inclined, what is the stuff that dreams are made of? Simulations are things that we use to talk or to think about other things. In this respect, they do not step out of Musk's base reality. They are still base reality. They are made of the same stuff everything else is made of. For instance...
okay, all right. Fucking hell.
I told you this is really bad.
So yes, in their like...
Just, it gets worse. Just
to their argument, yes, a simulation would be a product of the base reality. The idea that, base reality ran the simulation and we are a part of the simulation. Therefore, we are a part of base reality. But that's not the point. The point is that a separate instance of reality is running within the simulation.
It gets worse. For instance, a 10-inch neoprene model of Mount Everest is still an object, albeit an object that is used to refer to a much bigger object. A flight simulator is a physical thing used to refer to planes. A dynamic simulation on a computer of the galaxy is yet another object made of rather complex networks of electronic gates and devices cleverly connected. It is a dynamic object we use to refer to another object. But nowhere do we meet a pure simulation that is not an object.
No one's claiming that.
No, hang on, it gets better. The idea that simulations are a sort of immaterial entity that are, despite being dependent on their physical substate, nonetheless different is a leftover of the aforementioned belief in a higher and possibly better reality. It is a belief that we have no reason to take seriously. The notion that we may mistake a simulation of the world for the world is both conceptually and empirically flawed.
I know the purpose of this article now. This is not some simulation denier. This is someone from the base reality trying to prevent us from creating simulations.
I think it's just some idiots.
They were like, no, simulations aren't possible. Don't try and create a simulation. Don't crash our simulation with your own simulation.
I think Vice just wanted to combat Elon Musk in any way they could, but they picked the wrong battleground.
There are plenty of reasons to disagree with Musk. I mean, but
still, conceptually,
doesn't his family have like a blood diamond mind?
I don't know.
Isn't that why he got in trouble?
If someone ever creates a cat girl, it's going to be Elon Musk. He's just that kind of person.
Yeah.
You brought that up.
He indulges himself.
Well, I'm talking about Musk in general. Like, you follow his Twitter. He is.
Weird. Does he actually post that, or is that just Photoshops?
No, he posts that.
Okay, I don't have Twitter, so I don't actually know.
Conceptually, they say conceptually it is a self-defeating notion, something that, if taken to be truth, negates itself. In fact, if, say, simulated water might be a meaningful notion, what would it be made of? It could not be made of real stuff, because if it was, it would no longer be simulated water. However, neither could it be made of simulated stuff, because that's the point of being a simulation. There is no such thing as simulated stuff. All we know is physical. All we know belongs once again to base reality. Either way, simulated water cannot exist.
Is it possible to find who wrote this so I can go shoot them in the
forehead? I gave you their names.
I don't remember. Can I have their homes addresses?
No.
So I can read them this while I just espouse and then kill them?
Put yourself
it just
on a
keeps
list.
Getting better, man.
I am on a list.
Wait. Empirically, increasing computational power will not necessarily transform the water of computer games into the wine of a full-fledged simulated world. Making bigger bows and stronger arrows will never lead to an H-bomb. That's exactly what happened. Technologies get better. Sometimes there are conceptual gaps that cannot be bridged by incremental improvements. Living in a simulation is not like building a 1-mile-high tower, which is challenging but possible, but rather like having a planet with a certain mass and no gravity. No amount of technological progress will achieve the latter, no matter what. Moreover, Musk's confidence in the development of technology that massive increases in computational power will transmogrify existing video games into a real simulated world is based on the confusion between the ideal notion of simulation, which does not really exist, and the actual thing a simulation is. The ideal notion of simulation is in turn based on the notion that there are disembodied minds or a higher level of reality, and above, Over and above basic reality, this is highly questionable. The apple that looks so convincing to Musk on a VR computer screen, would be utterly disappointing for a butterfly looking for a home or for a robin looking for a worm. In a nutshell, what could this simulation be made of? If the reality we see were a simulation, we should assume that the simulator is made of altogether different stuff that by definition we could not even conceive. It should be made of something completely different from everything we meet in our world. While the notion that there is base reality and additional levels of reality is both appealing and enthralling, we have evidence of only one level of reality. The world we live in is just made of objects. Musk's argument is further plagued by two more hidden assumptions. The first notion that games are becoming indistinguishable from reality. They are indistinguishable from reality only because we grant them all kinds of allowances. But a simulated apple cannot feed anybody, no matter how many pixels depict it. Conventionally, when we compare a real apple with a simulated apple, we leave aside all properties that cannot be simulated. In the 80s, the first version of Microsoft Flight Simulator looked terrifically convincing to legions of players. It no longer does. The apple that looked so convincing to Musk on a VR computer screen, they repeat the butterfly thing. Basically, they are convinced that people who believe simulation theory are saying that, yeah, we're real, but the world around us is a simulation. And so, like, well, how would we get fed from simulated foods? They're completely not grasping the idea that we are also simulated.
We do not exist.
Yeah.
We are binary constructs.
They can't seem to grasp the idea that we don't exist. And they're like, well, what is this simulation physically made out of? And, like, this is where it's funny, too. Yes, Musk might rebut that in the distant future, the post-humans may add to their simulation more than just colors on a computer screen. They might add chemical substances with the right smell and taste, chemical structures with the right structure, and so forth. But in doing so, the very notion of simulation would be defeated, because at the end, no one would have a real one would have a real apple and not a simulation of it. So
are they retarded?
They really believe that these post-humans would be creating a simulation for previous humans to live in that are actual biological beings, and they're going to create a simulated world for them and pumping chemicals to create apples and things. They just they lost the concept, like, right from the beginning.
This does play into an idea. I don't know if this exists outside of my own mind.
Probably
But
not.
an idea I had called meat simulation.
Oh no, to practice your social interactions, Jason?
No, the idea that a sufficiently advanced civilization could create clones of their ancestors and terraform a planet.
Oh, MEAT.
To just run a simulation of clones is not like what we would think of as ones and zeros. It is a biological simulation. That also seems like...
Yeah, but I mean, technically, that's not really a simulation.
Is it, though?
It's a physical experiment.
Yeah, that's just an experiment.
But I mean, there are simulations that are physical.
I mean, if we could do that now, then, like, let's say we found an island somewhere and it was completely uninhabited, and we took a bunch of clones from civilizations and stuck them on it. See how they pan out.
Pride would try and fuck them.
Is a dildo a simulated penis?
I mean...
Yes.
Yeah.
So there are physical simulations.
I mean, it's called Bob for a reason. Battery-operated boyfriend.
So there was one point in the article where they actually made a good argument, and they just kind of glossed over it. They said, however, pace many philosophers, there is not a different level of reality that our computers access when they do number crunching. Computers have no mental life. Computers have no inner images. There are no simulated worlds inside computers. Inside computers, sadly, there are no simulated trees, spaceships, explosions, luscious naked bodies, or scary monsters. Inside computers, there are boringly just voltage levels that control physical objects, the screens that, when viewed by human beings, produce the mistaken yet amusing belief that one is watching trees, spaceships, explosions, and the like. Yet, and this is key, to do so, a computer must control another object, commonly a screen, that exploits physical colors. Basically, what I thought they were getting at there is that if we are a simulation, they would be able to watch it and view it, but we shouldn't have experience of it from within it.
Why? Because it's just a video game
no.
running a script?
No, not necessarily that it's running a script. It could be AI. It could be generating. We could have free will within it, whatever. But there's no internal imaging as of right now that would make it so that we could perceive things from within the simulation. They can look at the simulation and see what's being played out. But how would we have perception within the simulation?
Well, think about it. Think of like The Sims as a rudimentary ancestry simulation.
Is it not?
I mean, yeah, right. I mean,
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, they pathfind.
They even have our ancient languages.
They pathfind. They can walk through the buildings.
Mm-hmm.
They have a consciousness. They have an awareness of their surroundings. You can knock out a wall, put a new door, and they'll know it's there to use it. They are aware of their surroundings.
But we are seeing that they're being aware, like it's being run. They're programmed to do that.
Right.
But that sim itself has no consciousness, no mind,
that's why I'm saying rudimentary
no perception
simulation.
of its world. It can't see the door.
But it
has.
But it comes down to your definition of seeing. We have a definition of seeing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's the interaction of photons with the rods and cones in the back of our eyes. They
Give
have
them enough of an AI that they
have
will
a
perceive.
different definition of seeing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's I know there's a wall there because the program tells me there is. And so to them, they see the wall. They may see it as ones and zeros. They may see it as a Boolean. Is there a wall? Is there not a wall?
So what you're
they
saying,
see the wall, but in a way that we don't understand because we are not.
So what you're saying is when we kill NPCs in a video game, they know it, they feel it, they see it, and now I feel horrible.
Every sim I've ever drowned in a pool felt it and suffered to the very last minute.
Why do you feel bad about killing NPCs?
No, just based on his argument. I don't generally know.
No.
You got to wipe out the last thing you do in Skyrim is you kill everyone. You find the traveling bands, you go to every location, you kill every town.
The last thing I did in Skyrim was finish the opening cutscene.
I never got into Skyrim. Now, Morrowind I played.
Couldn't get into it.
No.
And
you go through and you cause havoc. You start at the far east end, and then you move west. Just wiping out everything. Every small town, every bar, everything.
Now, see, I've never finished Morrowind because every single time I get the message, you have doomed this storyline and you cannot complete it.
I never played
because
Morrowind.
I killed too many people.
No. Everybody dies.
At least they tell you, though.
Yeah. Because it's basically, you've killed the NPC that's going to give you the quest to finish the game, so you're fucked.
Mm-hmm.
That's dumb. Nope. You finish
Morrowind is like, 3 versions earlier than Skyrim, so it's going to be quite a bit less resilient.
I don't know.
Morrowind,
Oblivion,
Skyrim. So, okay, 2 versions prior.
Yeah, I just like the idea that, well, I mean, in the game, they know you're coming. They send out patrols to try to stop you, and you kill them, and then you just keep marching.
Mm-hmm.
Instill fear.
Yeah, but
in
anyway.
The enemy.
What do you guys think? We living in a simulation?
I don't know. I get enough dreams about shit that's going to happen.
I think of like all the blockchain mining and things like that. I mean, they just have so much already. And if there's an advanced civilization, how, their technology is so much greater. Why couldn't it happen?
Yeah. I mean,
what if the simulation is a blockchain mine?
It might be.
They're like, all right, we need to mine this Bitcoin. But we,
I was going to say that.
Let these simulations handle it.
They're running a bit mining program.
January.
Our whole civilization is on like 60 rigs that are in some dude's basement that's all super cooled, and he's got 3090s in, and he's just running Bitcoin mine, and we're just like a byproduct of that.
We're stewards of the coin mines.
Yeah. Every day you work, every day you go to work and you make a paycheck, every paycheck has like a millionth of a Bitcoin in it. So everybody in the world that gets a paycheck contributes to 1 Bitcoin.
I laugh because I realize what I'm saying is digital slavery.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We are working the Bitcoin mines.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
that would if that's how
It's a
it
blood
came.
coin.
Like I don't watch Rick and Morty a lot, but I don't.
Right.
I have
so
seen.
surprising to me.
I just don't.
So that's like right up your alley.
I don't think it's that funny, to be honest.
I got burned out on the last
pretty
season
good.
because I've
Yeah,
watched
the last
too
one
much of
was
it.
great.
But no, I just remember the one thing where like the car, the battery in Rick's little hovercraft has like an entire civilization, and all they do is provide batteries for like his headlight.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. That's what their civilization is for.
Well, yeah, the stump box, and then the idea that they got tired of doing this, so they made their own reality inside that reality.
Yeah, to make
To do the
power.
exact same thing.
Yeah, and everybody is just using this whole simulated universe or created universe to do something they didn't want to anymore.
So
Right.
yeah, January 1st, 2000, we all died and converted into the simulation.
Or we blinked into existence as the simulation.
Well, yeah, I mean, same
I
thing.
don't know. I existed.
Biologically, we died.
I existed.
And
before
No,
that.
blinked into
biologic-
existence.
Our biologic existence could have carried on, and we are, a new instance of ourselves within the simulation, completely unaware of
We
our biological
transferred
life.
our consciousness from the
No,
biological.
We branched it. We are an instance of our consciousness as it existed, and then our actual consciousness continued on within meat space.
Oh, this
we
is
just
this
split.
is the Soma problem then.
Oh,
Where we made a copy of ourselves and put it somewhere while our actual selves went off to do that. We're like, haha, we're gonna just throw our this little like mental copy into this program with everybody in it.
Soma
and we're gonna
problem?
Soma is actually a great example of this. The
Are you
idea
talking
that,
about the game Soma?
Yeah.
Or are you talking about the drug from Brave New World?
no,
Game.
the game.
Okay, because that's weird because that's not how, like, because obviously they took the name from Brave New World. They had to have taken
Did
the
you
name
play
from there.
Soma?
No, but what you're saying is actually quite different from what Brave New World is about.
We haven't explained what Soma is yet.
Well, what you were saying about clones.
It's not a clone thing.
No,
Okay, go ahead.
You go ahead.
So the
it's been a
idea
while since I
is-
played it.
world's doomed. Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They put all their consciousness into the simulation, and they're going to launch it into space.
Mm-hmm.
But what the thing is they can't kill the consciousness. So a copy of it goes into the simulation, and the base consciousness gets put into like a piece of machinery around the base,
Mm-hmm.
a drill, a medical droid, something like that,
Mhm.
to where technically one instance of your consciousness is living in this paradise inside the simulation,
Mhm.
and the other is like toiling away, like digging at rocks.
So that is a bit like Brave New World.
Yeah.
Jason, you'd love Brave New World. Have you read it?
No.
It's all about breeding people for their purpose.
Hey, they're making a movie about that called Voyager.
So no, what they actually do in Brave New World is that everyone is happy
Mhm.
because everyone has been bred for their station in life. So whatever they do, their brain perceives as like absolute
Fuck
bliss.
you! I know what you're saying. I like this now.
But no, well, it's an interesting dilemma, like ethically, is that
I am the
if
happiest
you
shit
bred
scooper.
a person to be at their happiest when, scooping up turds, well, that's, to the rest of us, that's not a good thing. But if that's where they're happiest, is it wrong?
I say it's also completely
And-
impossible.
No, you could.
You can't breed interests and
You can't
well,
pleasure
breed
centers.
interest, but
in
you could
their-
genetically.
in the book they did. It's a fiction book.
Right.
Yeah,
but,
you can't breed that into somebody to enjoy scooping up shit.
Mhm,
That
but-
requires some neural tinkering.
basically they have like 2 or 3 classes of people, and like
along the lines of Gattaca,
I'm not familiar with. Oh, wait, I did watch Gattaca.
right?
I don't remember it that much.
I think I
The
played
idea
Galactic.
that at some point we develop the ability to genetically alter children before they're born,
Yeah.
and you create 2 different classes in society. Those who have been modified can get the jobs, can get this, can do that, and those who have not been, who are just left to toil in dirt and disappear and
So there's-
never be thought of again.
You know why I watched Gattaca?
The superhumans and the proletariat is what I'm hearing.
I watched Gattaca because you remember the show The League?
No.
It was a show about some guys of the fantasy football league.
Oh yeah,
Oh, that. Okay.
There's
I
this
was-
one part where they're doing like a paintball day or something. They're shooting each other with paintballs, and Rafi on the show, I can't remember his actual name. It's Jason something.
Mhm.
But he comes out with paintball guns, just shooting like crazy, going Gattaca, Gattaca. It's like, what? So I looked up Gattaca and watched
That
the
has
movie.
nothing to do with Gattaca.
I know. That's why it's funny.
Gattaca follows
It just
a guy.
sounds like a good word to say when you're blasting paintballs at people.
Gattaca follows a guy who was not genetically modified, who wants to be an astronaut, but that is a position that requires genetic modification. So he, on the black market, buys genetically modified blood, genetically modified fingerprints, and like wears it over his fingertips. And
I can't remember who was in that.
it doesn't fucking matter anymore. They'll probably be remade in a couple of years anyway. Everything old is new again.
It's true.
And it's live action. Old is new and new is live action.
It was already live action.
I'm just saying when
See,
they remake
Unlike
movies.
you, when we reference a property, it's not some weeb shit.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was making the connection to what Disney is doing. You know, all the things they're remaking are live action is what I was getting at. You jack fuck.
We're the live action remake of our previous cartoon lives.
No, Japan is smart because they don't do live action. It's just all anime.
Oh, they don't do live action?
Oh, they do plenty of it.
Do you not remember the live action Death Note or the live action, like,
Yeah, like I said, they
They're
do
all
plenty of
shit.
it, but they're not good. They learn their lessons,
no, they don't.
and
They
then
just keep
America
making
tries to
them.
do it. Netflix tried. They're going to make a live action Cowboy Bebop, and nobody's looking forward to it.
I
That would
am.
be fucking horrible.
I'll watch it.
No, you won't.
I'll watch it.
I usually
Well, no,
always
I won't
watch-
watch it.
I usually always watch the live action remakes of animes because I don't care to watch the anime. So I'll just watch the live action remake that all the anime people hate.
January 1st,
Like I like that Death Note thing.
January 1st, I canceled my Netflix, and I have not missed it yet.
No, you won't.
There's no reason for it.
There's nothing good on there anymore.
Yep.
Until The Witcher comes back. I mean,
When The Witcher comes back, I'll just, like, bum your
The
Netflix back.
Witcher is
Yeah.
on Netflix? That was
Yeah.
on Amazon.
no, that was Netflix. Amazon's got a bunch of other good stuff, though. It's the superior streaming service.
Is it really?
And
It is.
anyway.
I have one thought.
Oh,
Just
one
he's
thought from
finally
Josh.
talking.
I do. So if we are, I guess, a simulation from a more intelligent us in the future, would we not get to the point where we realize that and can possibly read that code and manipulate it? I guess I was
Like
thinking
in The Matrix?
or like Minority Report,
Yeah.
or that movie where they have the precogs who can sort of see into the future
Mm-hmm.
and predict what could or couldn't happen. I mean, I would feel like if we're going to advance to the point where we can create a simulation, we would get to a point where we could read it prior to creating it.
That's how we
And
get
manipulate it.
superpowers.
There you go.
Exactly.
So-
We learn to
I like
rewrite as we go. There was another movie where they did that. It wasn't The Matrix. It was like some other movie where people like had the ability to kind of like alter the code of the universe and have superpowers. I don't remember what it was. It
don't
might have
know.
been a TV show.
I just like the idea that instead of like precognition, seeing what it's going to be, it's like, oh, you can just tear into it and do what you want. I just like the idea of the first person to figure that out. They just go, man, I really want like a Coke or something, and then they're just like, headache, and they just Coke. It's like, I want a bigger TV, and then there it is. It's like, oh fuck. 2 days later, they got it like super tanks rolling down the street, and a dude in Primaris armor is running all over the place. And he's the only guy. Like, there's one person that knows how to do this, and he's like, I'm having so much fucking fun. If he doesn't go crazy with power, but I just like the idea of just, I have the ability to just, ow, my head. Oh, hey, there's the thing I was thinking about. Fuck.
What we're getting a view of is what would happen if Brian had the ability to alter the simulation.
Oh, if I had
It
the
wouldn't
ability to
be,
alter, I would be a
let's fix
fucking
world
Jaeger
hunger
in a
or-
second.
Yeah, it'd be some weeb shit.
Well, okay, who would? I mean, first instinct.
I
If
have the
you got
ability
the
to do
ability
anything.
to do anything, whose first instinct is going to be like, I'm going to solve world hunger.
I'm going to cure diseases.
I'm
It's
going
like,
to cure
nah.
all disease. No, I'm going to give myself telekinetic powers. I'm going to do what that kid did in Chronicle. I'm going to go crazy, and I'm going to throw bullets away from me when people try to shoot at me, and I'm just going to try to take over the world.
Or kind of like when Morty gets the stupid precognition
Yeah.
pistol, and he's just like dodging bullets.
Yeah.
No.
No,
I mean, who's going to
but
do
then again,
something
yeah, I
boring
mean-
like that? I mean, Jason, you could finally implement your final solution.
Fuck you. But no, I think yeah, I mean, video games actually might be a good indication of what do we do when we have cheat codes available to us.
We kill everyone.
Unlimited ammo, unlimited guns. It's just like
Yeah.
it's fucking
What do
stupid.
we do in games?
Unlimited
we do
ammo,
horrible things.
bottomless clip, unlimited health.
Yeah, if we
and
knew the world was
full
a
speed.
simulation and then we had the ability to alter it and give ourselves powers to do whatever we want, why should we care about everything else because it's all simulated? So we're going to lose empathy. We won't care about anything or anyone, and we'll just go do whatever we want.
You know what that is?
know?
That is essentially, you just got creator tools in a source filmmaker lobby or a Gmod lobby. That's what you're doing.
That is why, and this is in conclusion, that is why if Brian has sex, the simulation crashes. Because if he has sex, then we know he has gained the ability to alter the simulation, and we're all doomed.
Sounds good to me.
Have fun, everybody.
I hate you.